Hello to the folks who are joining us. Welcome. We're going to give things just a minute or so before kicking off our student panel for the Art and Architecture Week. So thanks for joining us, and we'll get started in just a moment. Hello to the folks who are just joining. We will be getting going with the student panel for WashU's Art and Architecture Week in just a moment. We're going to wait for folks to log on, give them the opportunity to do so, and we'll get started about a minute or so. Okay, it looks like our numbers are evening out, so we'll go ahead and get started so we can prioritize our students' time. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the student panel portion of our WashU Art and Architecture Theme Week. I'd like to kick things off by starting with acknowledging the Indigenous culture of Missouri. Washington University in the city of St. Louis are located on the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Osage Nation, Missouri, and the Illini Confederacy. We honor them as we live, work, and study here at WashU. My name is Morgan, and I'm an admissions counselor here at WashU, and I'm lucky enough to be joined today by a few current students who will be more than happy to share their experiences as Sam Fox students with you all today. This is the final session of our Art and Architecture Theme Week, and so we hope you've been able to tune in to our other sessions that we've hosted throughout the week. And we will be sharing the recording of this student panel as well as of all of our other previous events on our webpage, our Art and Architecture Theme Week webpage starting next week. So make sure to keep an eye out for that if you missed any of our events and want to check them out later. Since we are doing this in a webinar format, we will be using the Q&A feature today for you all to submit your questions. So throughout the webinar and the panel, feel free to submit those using that Q&A function down at the bottom of your screen. And we have, we'll try to get to as many questions as we have. There's a smaller group today, so please feel free to submit any and all questions that you've got. So while you are doing that, we're going to go ahead and get started with our student introductions. So they're going to give you a little bit of information about themselves. So Jade, I will let you kick it off.
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm a rising senior in Sam Fox. I'm majoring in communication design with minors in architecture and creative practices for social change, and I am from Atlanta.
Hi, my name is Naima. I'm a rising junior. I'm majoring in architecture, and I am from Gambia, but I moved to the States about 4 years ago. So I was in Maryland at the time before I came into St. Louis.
Hi, everybody. My name is Micah. I'm a rising senior, and I'm majoring in architecture, and I'm minoring in entrepreneurship, and I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Alrighty, thank you all. So our first question is, how did you decide on your majors and or minors?
I can start, I guess. So I came into WashU as an architecture major, actually, which I applied for architecture just because it was something that I had been interested in and knew that I really, I might want to explore it, but I wasn't totally sure. So I wanted a school like WashU where I would have other opportunities to explore if I chose not to continue with the architecture major. And after my first year, I ended up realizing that architecture was just a little bit too technical for me because I really love the creative and design side of it still, but I am not as big into math and the more kind of technical aspects. And so I kind of just ended up stumbling into communication design because I knew that I really wanted to stick with something creative, so I didn't want to switch out of Sam Fox. And I also knew that visual arts might not be the best major for me. And so I kind of just found communication design, and it's been a really cool major just because I didn't know a lot about it before, but I've definitely learned a lot in my past couple years of it now. And for minors, I kept up the architecture minor since I had already taken a lot of classes in it. And again, I'm still very interested in it. And my other minor, creative practices for social change, is basically design for social impact. And this was a new one that just started just a couple years ago. And so I just thought it sounded really cool, something that I'm very interested in as well. And also have taken a lot of classes for already just because I enjoy my sandbox classes.
I guess I can go next. Well, I decided to do the architecture major because my mom thought I'd be good at it or something. To be honest, it wasn't really something I had thought much about during my high school career and stuff. And then I went in knowing that it wasn't that big of a deal. Like Jade, if I didn't really enjoy it because I knew that WashU gave us the opportunity to just like move around and decide if this was something we were interested in or not. But I actually started getting pretty interested in it. I'm still kind of not necessarily sure if this is like the field that I want to get into, but it's something that I think is still worth like experiencing for myself and stuff. So I haven't decided anything on a minor yet. I had a lot of different ideas for minors because I'm really into interdisciplinary studies, but because during my WashU allows you to take any type of class during your school year, I've just been going into different like anthropology like classes or comp sci classes and stuff like that because they said, you know, you can. So I did. So minors and stuff hasn't really been a thing yet.
Yeah, similarly to the other girls, I didn't really have any architecture experience in high school, but I'd always liked like the idea of studying architecture in college. And I also really liked that at WashU you can like explore many different interests. So that was one of the reasons that I chose WashU was because I knew if I didn't end up wanting to do architecture, then there were plenty of other interesting majors that I could choose from, and I would have been happy to be at WashU studying any of those. And then for my minor, I took a bunch of different classes, like in computer science, psychology, business, but I ended up majoring in entrepreneurship or minoring in entrepreneurship just because I liked the classes that you get to take. I've taken some really interesting like little startup classes that have been really fun, and it's a nice kind of a nice break from architecture, while at the same time it's a really valuable skill to have as an architect going into the field. I think Morgan might be frozen.
Well, it looks like Morgan's frozen. I'll jump in. Can you guys take us through what a typical day looks like for you on campus, starting on a Monday from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep?
Yeah, I can go first for this one. So I'll give you the pre-COVID answer because this past year is just like waking up and doing school virtually. But usually I would get up, go to campus. I usually would spend the day on campus and go to any classes, maybe meet a friend for lunch or meet up with somebody to do some work in one of the libraries or in a building where I don't usually have classes, just to see different parts of campus. And I usually get lunch on campus. The food is all really great. And then like there are club meetings in the evenings. So I would usually have one of those and then get dinner, do some more homework, and then go to bed. But then something I like about WashU students is people work really hard during the week and they care about their academics, but people also like do fun things over the weekend and hang out with their friends. And so it's not all just school, but Monday is school.
I guess I can go next. So I'm gonna give you an idea of mine during COVID. On Mondays, I had a pretty free, like a pretty free schedule until like maybe around the late afternoon. So, and I knew because I didn't have, it was really hard to come up with a really strict schedule for myself because there wasn't really much to go, where like many places to go and stuff. But I had a friend who also lived off campus because I was doing WashU off campus housing. and I had a friend that was like maybe a 15-minute walk away. So to get me to go outside and stuff, I like would walk to their place. And so a good chunk of my like mm, mid afternoon would be spent with them, and then I would do work with them, and then I'd come back and then make myself like food or something, because the place I was staying had like a kitchen, which was really nice because I started learning that I really like to cook. And then I'd spend most of my day either doing work before my class, and then after that class, I'd have like a maybe some sort of club meeting, and then make food again, and then go to bed. I guess I go to bed late though, but don't do that. But I do. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Honestly, my days, both COVID and non-COVID, are pretty similar to both of those. But definitely agree with Micah in that students definitely study really hard and work hard during the week, but also either during the week or weekend, maybe go to the Loop to have dinner with friends, or go to Forest Park, or just so many different things. So definitely a really great study life combo at WashU.
Great, thank you all. And of course, my internet went out right after the first question, so I'm glad to be back. So our next question is, within the program that you're studying, what would you say is the stylistic focus on? Is it more modern? Is it more classical? Is it a mix? What has been y'all's experience with that?
So you take a lot of art history classes as an architecture major. So you take Western, you take modern, you take 2 semesters of architectural history. And there's some more like Asian or Middle Eastern architecture thrown into the architectural history courses. But you can get a really wide breadth of subjects from the art history courses. And then within the studios, you can kind of take it wherever you want. So there isn't really any guideline for how you should be designing your space. It's really up to you, and you work with your professor to refine that design. And then additionally, like I have some friends who are minoring in art history and get more exposure to different kinds of art and different cultures that way. So you really get exposed to a lot of different things just through the core curriculum, and then you can go further with that if you're interested. And the abroad program is in Florence, so I'd say there's a big focus on classical architecture if you go abroad.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to that in the College of Art side. I don't really have much experience other than in the basic classes in terms of more visual fine arts, as the classes I've taken in the past couple of years have been on the communication design side. So a lot of stuff with typography and using words and images together, and just a lot of communication, things like that. But I would say within every class that I've taken, I've had so much flexibility in terms of what I have been able to design. And in all of our projects, regardless of what they are, you really can take them in like any sort of direction that you want to take them. So if you want to make it more of a modern look, you can, or if you wanted to make it more classical, you can also do that. So really anything you want, which is really nice.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone was talking about. But especially because most of my, I think, college experience has been during COVID and stuff. We haven't really done much like technical drawing and all that stuff. So we've been really focused on like software and learning software programming and all that, designing and everything. So a lot of our focus within like within my architecture program has been like on the computer. And so I do feel like I'm lacking in like the technical aspect of it all, but I feel like, well, since it's coming to an end, we're gonna go back in person. I really do like the fact that we're able to switch up, and adjust to like adapt to the new changes, and then I guess like work on the skills that you need for both like both the technical and the software skills, like switch up on them because of the current way the world is right now. I guess I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but what I'm saying is it's adaptable, which is really great, the program. So yeah.
And I just wanted to add on, as somebody who like studied in the art program and graduated like and didn't have a COVID experience. I would say it's a healthy mix of both. Like you definitely learn the traditional skills, like you'll be expected to like learn how to draw and like observe and translate and all of that. But then we have, especially recently in the past few years, like more like equipment, like a brand new fabrication lab, a CNC plasma cutter, a new like 3D like clay printer. Like we're kind of like building in innovation also through our interaction design program and our time-based and media art program. You can see that our program is adapting to the times to embrace new technology as well. So it can really be whatever you want it to be. Like I know illustrators who like worked in only watercolor and like used some digital tools to do finishing, and then some people who design completely on the computer. So yeah.
Okay, so our next question is, how would you describe the amount of diversity that you can find at WashU?
I guess I can go for that. So I'm in quite a few different clubs, but in specifically in the architecture program, there's a club called NOMAS, which I'm a vice president. Oh wait, they left. So now I'm the current co-president of NOMAS, which is the National Organization for Minority Architects, and it really, really just fosters this idea of like creating really healthy social dynamics between architecture students of different backgrounds. There's also the WIAD, which is the Women in Architecture club as well. So there's a pretty diverse range of different clubs to help with different marginalized groups and like also help foster communities within those groups, which is really great and stuff. And outside of that, there's also different clubs for specific like groups in terms of like, for instance, there's this Code Black CS group chat and stuff, which is just basically a bunch of like Black CS majors or minors, you know, who just talk and help each other with like networking and finding different resources to help each other, especially because it's kind of hard within like within that particular field in terms of their diversity. And so I think you see a lot of students, especially doing the work to make sure that other people who look like them feel like, you know, they're not alone in trying to navigate like these spaces, you know, especially because there are not many of us in those, like in these fields and everything. So.
Yeah, to add on to that, like within the studios, I would say there's a lot of diversity. People come from all over the country. There are a lot of international students as well. So there's just a lot of different ideas and thoughts that are being bounced around, and especially in architecture, when you're designing and you need to be like aware of the culture, then it's really interesting to see how different people design different things based on their own life experiences. But I would say that you learn just as much from your peers as you do from your professors. And I think that partly is because there's so much diversity in the student body and in the studio courses.
All right, great. Thank you both. So speaking of professors, this is a great segue, Micah. How would you all describe your professors and your experiences with them as students?
I can start. I would say that all the professors in Sandbox and beyond as well that I've worked with have always been very helpful and supportive. They're always really like wanting to help you with anything you might possibly need help with. I had one professor in a Sandbox class. I took classes with her a couple times, and she like throughout the semester a couple times would schedule like little conferences one-on-one with each student. Not meant to be like anything scary at all, but really just to make sure that she could know anything that you might possibly need help with, regardless of if it was inside or outside of class. And last summer, she even helped me try to find an internship. Like, so definitely really supportive and really there to help you with anything you need.
Yeah, another thing that's nice about Sam Fox in particular is that you have pretty small class sizes, so you're able to build a good relationship with your professor and you get that one-on-one time. And so I would say, just compared to like what I've seen from some of my friends who are in arts and sciences or the business school, is that you really develop these personal relationships with your professors, which is really valuable. And like I would feel comfortable reaching out to any of my previous professors if I had a question, or if I needed to talk to them about something that we had talked about in their studio. So it really gives you a good base of people to like look up to and to reach out to for information if you need it down the line.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with what everyone was saying. Also, I didn't realize this until like the last semester, but your professor really is a reflection of like the type of professor you have can really um affect the quality of your work, and also how much like just the way your work looks and the amount of time I guess you put into your work, especially when if your professor cares the same amount of like if your professor cares about your work like the same way you do, I guess there's a really healthy and like I guess just a really strong dynamic in terms of coming up with like really cool ideas for you to develop your ideas a lot better and stuff. I don't know, because I think the last semester, or no, the semester before that, I had created so much work within like that one semester that I never done before, and it was because my professor was so engaged with how much like work we were doing and always encouraging us to take steps forward and doing little workshops to help us like develop smaller skill sets, that could small things that you don't even realize could really propel you forward in your design process. And I don't know, I just think it's so important to, I don't know, keep in mind that that these like relationships you build with your professors are so important for you to help you through your design thinking and your design, I guess, process and stuff. So yeah.
Great. So our next question is, did any of you have any background in art classes or architecture classes before entering your specific program? And do you feel that you were taught maybe in your first year or first couple years everything that you needed if you didn't have that experience coming into college?
Yeah, so I took one painting class my freshman year of high school and one photography class, but mostly just because my friends were in them and the teachers were easy and you could mess around the whole time. So very little actual art experience in my background, and I was totally fine. I did submit a portfolio, which may or may not have helped. It's optional for WashU, but your first year they kind of teach you everything you need to know, and in the first year studio they incorporate drawing skills, and so you do a lot of hand drawing. You don't even touch a computer your first semester, and so I came in with pretty much no art experience, and I like am at the same level as my peers. Like you're not going to be behind if you don't have that experience in high school, but if you do have it, it obviously it's going to help you too. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I would say similarly, I took a couple classes in high school, but not many. Again, also like a beginning drawing painting class my freshman year, and then a couple photography classes. But other than that, like I always enjoyed doing creative things. And so I would do a lot of random little like arts and crafts in my free time, but I didn't have a lot of like actual art background before. And I agree, I have also felt very prepared with the classes that I've taken throughout my first and second year at WashU.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I think I only took maybe 2 art classes, and those were requirements to like graduate and stuff. So I don't really have much of an art background at all. But going into it, I definitely felt the nerves, thinking like, oh, this isn't the best fit for me because a lot of these kids are super talented already, and I can't like get to where they are in time and stuff. But I was you'd be surprised just how capable you are as just like an individual in terms of like learning such new material, but also just how well the teachers help bridge that gap for you. but also being able to rely on yourself to help bridge the gap for yourself. It's like you put in the work and also the teachers help you through that as well. But yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
I just want to add in that I had a lot of art experience coming in from high school. Like I had taken AP drawing, AP art, all of that stuff, and I still learned so much my first year. And I think even though I had more of that advanced experience coming in, my professors pushed me even further. So it wasn't like I was ever bored.
And one other thing that I'll add too is that like drawing is 100% a skill you can learn. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, they're so talented, which yes, there definitely is talent in art, but you can 100% learn how to draw if you think you can't draw.
That's good to know because I can't really draw. So next question on the topic kind of classes. What math classes do you have to take as an architecture major or minor?
Oh, I think at least for me, for our grade, we only needed to have satisfied a Calc 1 requirement and also a physics requirement, but that was it. I think you could go further if you wanted to, but it was just Calc 1 and physics.
In addition to that, you also have to take 2 structures courses, which there is math involved, but it's also related to architecture, and it's easier than calculus, so it's not anything to worry about.
All right. Next question is, have y'all done any internships throughout your time at WashU? And if so, specifically for our architecture folks, which I think we all can y'all all qualify for architecture folks. What was your experience with those internships? And if you didn't have an architecture internship, feel free to just speak on your general internship experience.
So I am currently in the middle of my first like official architecture internship this summer. I did some like small firm visits and stuff when I could after my freshman and sophomore years, just to get some experience and exposure to the professional world. But my internship this summer, it's probably a little different from what you guys would do just because it's fully remote. So I'm just working from home. But it's been such a great experience because there's so much to learn. That's like the difference between school and the working world. So I definitely recommend it if you can get an internship. But yeah, it's great to meet a bunch of different people in the field and like to learn about all the different like the different areas within the architecture field, because there are so many different specialties. And like today we had a meeting with like a lighting design specialist who originally was an architect, but then he was like, actually, no, I like love designing the lights that go into all these different spaces. And so it's really interesting to learn about different people and like where they found their niche. And again, it's just like you're going to learn so much and meet so many people. So it's been a great experience for me so far.
I'm also in the middle of my first internship. It is not architecture, but I am a digital design intern this summer with Procter & Gamble. And so I've been doing a lot of stuff, both digitally as well as a bit more on the so I guess digitally in terms of for the website for the products that I'm working on, as well as a bit of packaging design, so more on the graphic design side as well. But it also is definitely just really good experience in terms of meeting people and getting to meet actual real world designers and seeing what they do, and also learning more just about if this is anything that I might want to pursue in the future, or if I might want to go in a completely different direction. It's just really good having that experience overall. So yeah, and WashU is definitely really great with the Career Center to help students find any sort of internship or job really in any area. Whether it's Sam Fox has their own career advisors who are really helpful, and really, yeah, so just they're very helpful.
Oh, I'm not doing an internship this summer. I decided to take a break and just stop and just like take a rest up and stuff for the next academic year, which I took a lot for me to be able to like do that, to just like take a pause. But I think it's really worth it. So you don't have to get into an internship literally your freshman year. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing to build off of what Jade just said, but like I pretty much got my job because of our career office. So like I went to their different events, like I had them review my resume and my portfolio. I interviewed with HOK, the firm that I'm working at now, at the Sam Fox Career Fair, and like basically got my job through those connections and the help of the WashU Career Center. So it's definitely a big resource, and you should definitely take advantage of it because they're great and they just want to see you succeed.
All right, so this is our like specific academic question for now, before we transition into more kind of general WashU related things. Micah, you mentioned earlier about the study abroad program in Florence, and this person wants to know, are there other abroad options that are available if you are planning to study architecture or art other than that specific program? And if y'all have experience with them. I know we've been in a pandemic for about 15 months, but prior to that, if anyone has experience with them, please feel free to speak on it.
Yeah, so Florence is the only place you can go as an architecture student, but it's really nice. I think it's kind of the ideal situation because you don't have to like coordinate through another program to go abroad. It's just like WashU taking their students and their professors, and you do a semester abroad. But the option, you can go either during the summer, any summer, or you can go the fall of your senior year. But I was going to go this fall, but it was canceled. So I personally have not been abroad.
Yeah, for the College of Art, it's the same where if you're an art major, so visual arts or fashion or communication design, then you also will go for a semester to Florence if you choose. And I would say, yeah, visual arts and fashion go in the fall of their junior year, and then communication design goes in the spring of their junior year. But yeah, I was also supposed to go. Very sad that I'm not, but definitely hope to make it to Florence sometime. But also with that, students, if they have like a double major in another area and they're able to get all of their requirements done, then they could actually go abroad somewhere else for whatever that other major is. So if someone's like a French major, then they could go to France as long as they're able to finish all of their art school requirements.
And I'll expand even further on that point, Jade, in that as a WashU student, again, keeping in mind that you finish the requirements necessary, any study abroad program is technically open to you as long as you meet the requirements for that program. So if you were studying art and decided you wanted to go on an English study abroad program because you really like English, even though it isn't technically a major or a minor, if you fulfill the requirements for that trip, you're welcome to go on that as well. So you can definitely check out the art and architecture study abroad programs, but you have plenty more to choose from outside of those areas of study. All right, so switching gears, like I said, our first general kind of campus question is, would you say that campus feels more like small town environment or more of a big city environment? And I think it says specifically campus, but again, feel free to kind of expand upon your experience in St. Louis too.
WashU definitely has a very small campus, small town feel to it, especially when you're a freshman and sophomore and stuff. You end up staying at the South 40, and that area is very much like a mix of modern and Gothic style, but it feels very much like you're in a small town and everything. It's really pretty. I don't know if you guys have been able to do your virtual tours yet or anything, but I personally that was one of my reasons for choosing to attend WashU, just because I thought the colors felt really warm and stuff, and I'm not really into like big cityscapes. So it definitely has a very small town feel to it, and everything is super close by. So
Yeah, I agree with what Nima said. The campus itself is like, when you're on campus, when you're not. So I really like that personally because like everybody's there and you just have your whole community right in one spot. But additionally, like Clayton, St. Louis, or Clayton is very close by, like within walking distance. Maybe it'd be like a 15-minute walk. But Clayton is close by, and then like a 10-15-minute drive, you can get downtown in a short amount of time too. So everything's very accessible, but WashU has, like, when you're on campus, it has a very like small town feel to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would say it's interesting to me because I was, when I was looking at colleges, I was very much so someone who wanted to be like in a big city, and I applied to a lot of very big city type of schools. But I think that really shows that WashU's campus can really appeal to anyone. Even me thinking that I didn't want a campus, I absolutely love it now. And I'm really, really glad that I did choose a school with an actual campus. And yeah, there's so much around, like there's so many great little neighborhoods and just areas of shops and things like that to explore around St. Louis. So I would say like overall, it's a really great combo feel where around campus, you definitely, yeah, like everyone said, when you're there and there's stuff within walking distance, but then there's also much more out there to explore as well. And I've definitely really enjoyed getting to know St. Louis over the past few years.
All right, our next question, arguably one of the most important questions for deciding on school is, what is the food like at WashU? Maybe go into detail about the meal plan options, kind of what dining halls and eateries are like on campus.
Yeah, I can start. As definitely one of my favorite things to talk about WashU is the food. WashU is ranked very highly for food, and I definitely have to agree with it. I lived on campus my first 2 years, and so I had meal plans then and ate just about every one of my meals on campus. And I always felt like there were so many great options. There's a few main dining halls on campus. One of them is on the South 40, like Nema was saying earlier. And so that one is very easy, especially for dinners most nights, I would say I had there. And then there's also a couple other main dining halls. And then there also are a bunch of smaller kind of cafe type of places scattered all around campus as well. So some of them specialize in different things. Like one of them it's like a new one this year, has sushi and poke and bubble tea. And then there's another one that brings in food from local restaurants and completely on meal points. So definitely a lot of really great options. And then also just wanted to add in really quick, outside of campus, St. Louis has so much great food as well. I definitely am a big food person, and I've been very happily surprised with the amount of food that there is. It's just all so good.
Yeah, and Jade pretty much covered everything, but in addition to that, we have like Bear Bucks, and so a lot of local St. Louis restaurants that are off campus will accept Bear Bucks. So that's just like using your student ID card, and you can pay for meals that way, which is really nice. And then just because this is a Sam Fox tour, there's also a really nice dining hall right by the art and architecture buildings, as well as like a mini 24-hour like mini mart in one of the art buildings that students have access to at any time. So those are two really convenient options for when you have a long studio day or when you just want to stay on campus and grab a bite to eat.
Yeah, and to add on to that too, there's also, if you also have like certain like food restrictions, they have quite a few options for that if you're like vegetarian or if you're kosher and stuff. However, I mean, I'm Muslim and stuff, but and there isn't many halal options, but they still, I feel like it's really easy to go on like the dining services website to recommend like more halal options for like people who can't eat all of the different types of food. And there's also vegan options as well too, so which is nice.
Our next question has to do with work-life balance or work and college life balance. So this is specifically, geared towards our architecture majors, but Jade, please feel free to answer this question from your perspective as well. How time consuming is it to be an architecture major? And do you feel like you have a good balance between kind of classwork and social life and the things that you're doing outside of the classroom?
Yeah, I can talk about this a little bit. So architecture is a very demanding major. It's a lot of time, but it is doable if it's something that you enjoy doing. I would say if you hate it, you're gonna have a terrible time because it's a lot of time, and if you don't enjoy the work, then you're not gonna enjoy your major. But if you do like architecture, I feel like it's all worth it. And like a lot of my really close friends are in architecture as well. So then when you're working, you don't like have to focus a lot. It's just like a lot of time on your work. But so then you can do work with your friends. And it's like not isolating. It's like kind of a collaborative group project when you're working, even though you're all working on your own individual things. So that's something I've really liked about it. But I have found that like you can fit anything in if you want to. You just have to be good about managing your time. And the professors freshman year are really good about helping you with your deadlines and making sure you're on track to kind of teach you how to manage your time so that you aren't in studio all the time. And like I didn't pull any all-nighters my freshman year. So like it's you can do it if you want to, or you can be in studio all the time. It's kind of up to you. But I've had great experiences in lots of different clubs. And I still have time to hang out with my friends and do other things outside of school as well.
I guess I can also. Well, I think for me personally, the architecture the architecture classes weren't really as time consuming as I thought they'd be. I mean, they do require time outside of class, definitely, but you have about maybe 3 to 4 hours inside the classroom to get some work done. So I think it's not just managing your time outside of the class, outside of the class, but within the class time, really organizing yourself to help it. So just outside of it, it can be a lot easier for you to like manage and break it down into manageable chunks and stuff. I think for me, what was a little hard for me to balance was architecture along with other like disciplinaries that I was interested in. And I think that's when it can get pretty hard to figure out exactly like what to prioritize and what maybe to put to the side for later. But I think once you, like Micah said, if you don't like it, it's not going to be a fun time. But if you have even a little bit of interest, I think it can help, you know? I don't know. You don't have to love it, but if you're willing to put in the work, I think it's okay.
Okay, our next question is how was your experience with moving into a college and moving out of state? So kind of that out of, because I don't think, yeah, we don't have any local folks on our panel today. So what was that like trying to travel to a totally new place, in and out, that kind of that moving, living away from home experience?
Yeah, I can talk about this. So I went to a pre-K to 12 school for my entire life, and I went all the way through there. So I was very anxious to come to school and like, how do you make friends? I don't know what to do. So I did a pre-orientation program, which I think now everybody is required to do, and I'm actually really happy for all of you guys that that's now the case, because I think that was huge for me because I was able to meet friends, do fun things in like a non-academic setting, and meet a lot of people that weren't necessarily going to be in Sam Fox or in architecture. So it like started out my like initial WashU friends kind of all across the board, which I thought was really helpful. And then like it's kind of exciting to live on your own for the first time. So I was like excited to go to school. And I would say my biggest piece of advice is that like everybody is trying to make friends. Like especially at WashU, you'll have like small groups of people that know each other from before, but most people don't know anybody else. And so everybody is trying to make friends. And so it's this really unique circumstance where like anybody will be friends with you at the beginning. And then eventually like you start figuring out who you're closer with and things like that. But yeah, it was a really unique experience and really fun for me at the beginning of college, just to like meet new people and talk to them, and like anybody will talk to you. So I would say like don't be scared to talk to people you don't know or to have like random conversations. And additionally, like if you push yourself to be really outgoing for like 2 weeks, it'll really pay off in the end. Because like I've found amazing friends both in my major and outside of my major. And yeah, I was very anxious going into it, but I think it all worked out.
Well, I came from West Africa, and so that wasn't when I moved to high school in America. So moving to college, like moving from like Maryland to Missouri wasn't that big of a deal for me, since I had already experienced like such a big transition in like landscape and cultural like landscape especially. So my college experience, like moving in, was pretty okay, honestly. I didn't really feel very nervous in terms of like talking to people, but mostly because I'd already had to do that my first time going in. And I think I realized pretty early on for me, like what I wanted going into college. And like in terms of just the people that I wanted to surround myself with, but I wasn't trying to be picky. It's like anyone, you just kind of open yourself up to any type of interaction because you really never know the type of person you're going to end up like really connecting with. And especially like, your roommates and stuff, if you end up choosing to have a roommate and everything, they could really be helpful in terms of just feeling a little, I don't know, feeling more comfortable going about the campus and stuff and trying to interact with different types of people if you're not okay doing it by yourself. I feel like you'll always meet someone in the same most college students are probably in the same position as you, just as nervous and confused or like weary about the entire situation that they're in right now, especially if it's a really new thing for them. So yeah, you'll be fine.
All right, next question. A little bit moving back towards Sam Fox related stuff. What are some, if y'all have some knowledge, and Rachel, feel free to jump in this question too, what are some past examples of student curated exhibitions at the Kemper Art Museum?
Oh, the WIAD club that I mentioned earlier, the Women in Architecture, they had a Kemper exhibition actually, where a lot of like women or non-binary like artists from the art and architecture school just collected a bunch of like photography or art or like architecture software designs and stuff like that, and then they um, put that up on the Kemper. Well, because it was COVID, we couldn't do that anymore. That was the initial idea, but then they decided to just do it on. It was an online exhibition instead, but it was the idea was really really nice, and you saw a lot of great work from different like people from different backgrounds and very like great stuff. You didn't have to be an architecture student to show architecture work. You could show artwork too. Yeah. So.
I'll also add on to that. So usually there's opportunities for faculty to curate exhibitions. There's a teaching gallery for that. But every year there's a certain fellowship that you can apply for as an architecture major or a minor. And a lot of our art and architecture students just like happen to be majors and minors because of our requirements. But it's called the Greenberg Curatorial Fellowship. And that's actually a really hands-on, like involved process. Like usually 1 to 2 to 3 people will receive that fellowship. And it'll start off with a paid internship with the museum, and you'll work with curatorial team and curate an exhibition using the selecting stuff from like the 9,000 piece collection of the Kemper. So it's a really cool, like really special way to have an exhibit. So I'm going to drop the link to that information in the chat.
Alrighty, our next question, still somewhat Sam Fox related, is did you submit a portfolio with your application? And if so, what are some tips you have when it comes to making one?
I can start. I did submit a portfolio, but I guess overall it is required for the College of Art and not required just if you want to do one for the College of Architecture. So I was applying into architecture at the time, so I submitted mine for architecture technically, but my portfolio had absolutely nothing to do with architecture, like at all. It was mainly just photography because that was the main, I guess, like art class that I had done in high school. It took 2 years of it, so I submitted mostly just photography work that I had done. So yeah, so I think overall that's the thing is whether you're applying to the College of Art or Architecture, it really doesn't have to be like something super specific. You can really just kind of show like what you've worked on and what you're passionate about working on and things like that.
Yeah, I also submitted a portfolio for architecture. And I would say the main thing is like, you don't need to have gone to some summer program, some architecture summer program, and like have that in your portfolio and things like that. But it's more just so they can get an idea of like how you're seeing things and how you then translate what you see into some form of art. So that can be really anything that you imagine. And it doesn't have to be architecture specific or yeah, like you don't have to have previous architecture experience to submit a compelling portfolio.
I also submitted an architecture portfolio and stuff, but it was like the same as everyone else. It was unrelated to architecture as well. So yeah.
I will use this as an opportunity to plug the recording of an event that we held this week, which is about building and working on your portfolio that Rachel did earlier. That will again be posted on our Theme Week's webpage for under the Art and Architecture section starting next week. So if you weren't able to make it and you were interested in kind of getting to know how to do our portfolio, there's a whole seminar on it. So recommend checking that out because that'll give some good insight as well. Okay, our next question is how would you describe WashU's school spirit and kind of what does it look like or what have been your experiences with it?
I think WashU has like a really strong sense of community and everybody is happy to be at WashU and proud to be at WashU. And I think that really shows. And although there aren't like big spectator sports or anything like that, people do have a lot of pride and a lot of school spirit. And I think it kind of just makes it a nice place to be and you want to be around those people because it just is like reinforcing all these like positive attributes about your school when other students are also appreciative of where they are. And I mean, even just like walking around campus, I still like feel so grateful to be at WashU and I'm so happy with my decision. And it's just like a really nice place to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Micah said there. I think one of my favorite things that I feel like really shows WashU's spirit is we have a lot of different events that go on throughout the year, and they're always very highly attended. And so one of my favorites is all of our cultural shows. So we have 4 different cultural shows, including Lunar New Year, Diwali, Carnival and Black Anthology, and they are all like really great shows that are put on throughout the year, and just students put so much work into them, and then other students really go and show their support in seeing all these shows and learning about other students' cultures and things like that. So it's really just a great way to see kind of the WashU community coming together.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, I also think we show school spirit in also smaller groups too. It doesn't usually have to be like a big WashU event. Like a lot of the time there'll be like little weekly events at like on the South 40. It's called Ursa's Night or something. And they have little events that a lot of people can go to on the South 40 and you get prizes and there's like karaoke and all that stuff and cahoots. I don't think we don't always have show our WashU spirit like in like really big extravagant ways and stuff. Sometimes it's just from like different community groups and stuff just having little events that anyone can go to, and it can be such an amazing learning experience. But also your freshman year, I remember, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to do this, I hope so, but we had a hypnotist come in, and everyone went to I forgot what the big chapel, and there was like, there were so many people and everyone was having so much fun, and it was such a mess because it was a fun time. And there was also a big concert that happened after that, and there was a roller skating ring. Like, there's big things happen. Yeah. So there's a lot of school spirit, especially in the early beginning, of your time and going in.
Yeah, probably to clarify, I don't think this roller skating ring was in the chapel.
No. Oh,
No.
yeah.
Although that would be cool. It's not quite that big. All right, our next question is, could you talk some about safety on campus? So as new students and over the years, how safe have you felt on WashU's campus? And feel free to also expand it in St. Louis in general.
I can start. I would say I have always felt very safe on WashU's campus and around as well. Like I said earlier, I lived on campus the first 2 years. And so if I was walking back from studio down at Sam Fox on the other end of campus, even late at night, I always felt very safe. There's a lot of different great resources that WashU has, including, of course, our blue light system. There's an app called the WashU Safe app. There's something called Bear Patrol, in which a golf cart will pick you up on campus and drive you all the way back to your residence hall. So lots of great options to help make sure students always feel safe. And this year I'm living off campus in an apartment about like a 8-minute walk off campus. And I have also always felt safe walking back and forth between there.
Yeah, there's also a shuttle system that goes around WashU's campus. And that's great any time of the day if you need to get somewhere quickly. But they run until like 2 a.m. I think. So it's also a good resource. If you're staying late at studio one night and you don't feel comfortable walking home, you can do that as well. Or if you even need to, you can call like the WashU PD and they can come pick you up.
All right, so I blinked and it's almost 3 o'clock. So we're going to start wrapping things up with our last question, which is, why did you choose WashU? And if you want to be more specific, why did you choose Sam Fox at WashU? We'll have each of you answer this one.
I chose WashU, I think, because the amount of different classes I could take unrelated to architecture was really the thing that sold me, because I'm such an indecisive person and I'm also so into different just subject matter like all the time. And I think being able to just go in and learn be in like the architecture major, but also learn something about like urban landscapes in Africa and stuff, but also learn something within like human evolution or human geography or something like that. Like that stuff really it gives me so much serotonin and stuff. So I think that was like my main reason for wanting to be here, because I was just able to diversify my learning experience, which I don't think I could have done in a lot of other schools.
Yeah, similar to what Nima just said, I chose WashU because mainly when I was looking for architecture schools to apply to, I wanted to do a 4-year program versus a 5, just because I wasn't completely sure I was ready to commit to architecture, like what a 5-year program would be. And then additionally, I chose WashU because I knew that I would be happy at the school no matter what I was studying, even if architecture didn't end up working out. And it's so easy to take any class that you're interested in. So that was a big draw for me academically. And then also, I really like that the environment with the students is very collaborative and supportive. So while people are performing at high levels and you'll meet people doing crazy things and very impressive people, it's not cutthroat. Like nobody is trying to sabotage you or doesn't want to help you with homework because that will affect them. Like everybody is there to help you and work together and get through it together. So that's something that I've found to be really, really nice at WashU, because I have some friends whose experience are not like that and they feel very isolated in their academics and things like that. And then additionally for me, after I visited campus. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. And then once I visited WashU's campus, that kind of sealed the deal because it's so beautiful. And I could just see myself there immediately. So that's why I chose WashU.
I honestly don't have way too much to add. That's pretty much why I chose WashU as well. Really, those main points of just having so much flexibility in terms of being able to study whatever I want to, take classes all over the board super easily, and having the community just be so kind and welcoming always, and very collaborative and supportive, like Micah said. And then also same when I visited, I just fell in love with the campus because it's just an amazing campus. So yeah, so those are some of the reasons why I chose it.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing that answer, but also joining us today and sharing all the bits and pieces of information, the stories that you have coming out of Sam Fox. And thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We hope you were able to learn something from attending the student panel and that you'll continue to engage with us throughout the summer. We will have my colleague Lauren drop registration links for the other theme weeks that are happening throughout the summer. So if you're interested in other divisions at WashU, we've got whole weeks for each of them, similar to the programming that you may have done this week for Sam Fox. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the admissions office, to your admissions officer, or to Rachel with any more questions that you may have. With that being said, thank you all for attending and have a great weekend.